Don't believe everything you read in the papers or see and hear on the news. I'm encouraging you, my reader, to get with the program. Take off the glasses through which you view life. Clean them, put them back on, and take another look at the world around you. See things unobstructed and for what they really are. People who put forth the programming on TV have an agenda. It's important to them and the people that fund them in order to achieve certain objectives that you think a certain way about the social issues of your day. Not just you, but everyone else around you are all targets. The news media puts forth the way people are supposed to view a certain issue or certain topic or certain event. They make sure that the people are so overexposed to it that they all get the point. Sometimes they beat it into the ground so severely that we're sick of hearing about the subject. But the repetition, no matter how annoying the subject becomes, no matter how sick you are of hearing about it, it usually accomplishes what it is set out to do. And it drills into the population how they're supposed to think about a certain issue. Everyone from the top officer at the university levels down to the kid who enters kindergarten for the first day gets indoctrinated with this view via the educational system. They hear about it so much that they eventually believe it. They believe it so strongly that they feel that anyone who has not accepted the commonly believed indoctrination or viewpoint is ignorant. They're seen as behind the times, not on the cutting edge of the newest trends in modern thought. And they're viewed as a caveman or a cavewoman who obviously never leaves the house, who obviously has no access to the outside world, because they've not yet swallowed up what everyone else in our society has already been instructed that they're supposed to believe. Ideas other than the majority view are not tolerated in our society. People who think independently are looked down upon, and their views are called culturally unacceptable, politically incorrect, intolerant, and nowadays even dangerous. Try telling someone the truth about Islam and watch them rush to shut you up. When one looks at the opinions of most of our people towards Islam following this attack, it is clear to see that the media has done its job well. The average person is trained perfectly. But I'm asking you not to assume that something is automatically made true just because the television says so. Does anyone in America today recall an old document known as the Bill of Rights? Even though the Constitution clearly says that Congress can make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise of religion, our media and our government are working together to do both to us simultaneously on the sneak. They've established a national religion right here in the United States by putting forth the way people should see Islam, by saying that the ones who did the attacks on September 11th, 2001 were not real Muslims. They've set that up as the only way possible that one can view that religion. They've closed the door to the idea of any other opinion. The view that Islam is a religion of peace is an established religious worldview that our government is endorsing and actively trying to force onto everybody. They've prohibited the free exercise of religion by way of trying to demonize anybody who dares question the religious view that they've established. If you dare to put forth something other than what is popular, what is approved, what is acceptable, you're suddenly called evil. If you dare to think for yourself, if you choose to come to your own conclusions, do your own studying, your own thinking, then you better come to the same conclusion that they've established. If not, be prepared to be hated and insulted and slandered. This is silly. Our country wants to produce a society full of mindless robots who all think the same way about Islam and about September the 11th. I hope you see the contrast of methods. Unlike the other side of the debate, I'm not quoting you a bunch of empty slogans or catchphrases. I'm not vomiting up some old recycled things that I picked up at some ethnic sensitivity class or some sayings I heard at the diversity seminar. What I'm quoting for you is the Muslim scriptures and commentators who are universally recognized by Muslim authorities as qualified sources of right information. You have those people, and you have me. Which side of the debate puts forth the better case? Who are you going to believe? I don't think the choice is really that difficult. Let us now return to the text of the Quran itself. Allah urges on the Muslims to butcher any opponents of Islam. In case you're not yet convinced that Islam is a violent religion in and of itself, check out the next exhibit in my case, Surah 4, Ayat 84. Quote, "So do thou fight in the way of Allah. Thou art charged only with thyself, and urge on the believers. Haply Allah will restrain the unbelievers' might. Allah is stronger in might and more terrible in punishing." What this verse says in a nutshell is this: butcher the opponents of Islam, or those who will not convert to it. Great religion of peace, isn't it? Aren't you glad that people are getting on television trying to endorse this and trying to keep you from asking any questions about this kind of teaching? Continue killing until all other religions have been wiped out of the land and only Islam is left standing. Surah 2, Ayat 193, quote, "Fight them till there is no persecution, and the religion is Allah's." Close quote. Here's the breakdown of the passage. Fight them. Them, contextually, is a reference to unbelievers. Well, who are unbelievers in Muslim literature? Non-Muslims, of course. Once again, Muslims are told to fight or kill us. Till there is no persecution. Persecution is a reference to other religions. The very existence of another kind of religion or philosophy or worldview on Islamic soil is seen as persecution against Muslims, against Islam, and against Allah. Muslims are to keep on fighting and killing in the land that they're seeking to conquer until there are no competing religions or ideas left in that area. And the religion is God's. And once again, the question is, in an Islamic piece of literature such as the Quran, which God is being described or referred to as the God? The Allah God from Muhammad's tribe, of course. Muslims are to fight and kill through the land until there are no other religions, and the only religion left in existence is Allah's, which is Islam, a military term, submission to Islam's moon god Allah. Bluntly paraphrasing, it's saying, look, Muslims kill all non-Muslims, or else scare them into submission and conversion by threats of physical violence until Islam is the dominant religion numerically through your land. You see, with that kind of mentality, there is no freedom of religion permitted. There's not even room for a hint of freedom. But don't take my word for it. Like I always say, do your own digging into the facts and come to the conclusion yourself. How many Muslim countries can you name that extend freedom of religion to their citizens? You couldn't name one if your life depended on it, could you? That's not a coincidence. You cannot go anywhere to escape Islamic oppression. Look at any present-day country in which Islam is the majority religion. Afghanistan, Pakistan, Indonesia, Iraq, Arabia, Lebanon, Iran, etc. Or check out the various African countries through which Islam is spreading like cancer. Ask yourself a question. Don't turn off your brain like the television wants you to do. Ask hard questions and be a thinking person. Are any of these nations representative republics? Are people born with the right to practice the religion of their choice? Do the people get to vote for the leaders over them? No. Without exception, you'll see nothing but the suppression of basic human rights in any of these places. And then this forces the question, why the heck not? It is because freedom of religion and basic human rights are incompatible with Islam. Wherever Islam is the majority religion among the people of a given country, no matter where on the planet you choose to look, what you'll see over and over again without exception is that Islam is forced upon the citizens. No choice is offered. Even a rumor that you might possibly own literature from another religion is a capital crime. If you brought a Bible onto Islamic soil in most of these places, all hell would break loose. Why? because most people in political office in these countries are Muslims. That being the case, they have to obey Quranic verses that teach the silencing of religions other than Islam. They have to deal with any hint of going astray from Islam by the people over whom they're governing quickly and severely. They have to squash these things in their infancy and make an example out of any people who are dumb enough to even question Islam before something other than Islam begins to spread across their land. Your enemy is still your enemy, whether you choose to see him that way or not. The events described in the last section sound kind of sick, don't they? But you want to know something even more sick? I just watched a cable TV special that tried to paint this religion, Islam, in a peaceful light. The producers of the TV show defended Islam with every breath that they had and with every drop of strength they could muster. It seemed very personal to them for some reason. The producers must have thought they were doing society a favor by rushing to the defense of Islam. But do you know what? For any of you readers out there who are defending Islam, you're playing right into the hands of the terrorists. They've won a great victory the minute you start defending Islam. This is exactly how they hope you will think. Both the terrorists in foreign lands and the ones here in America, and yes, there are probably hundreds here right now walking the streets with you and I every day, they love the whole pro-Muslim movement that came out of this whole thing. It falls right into their hands and sets the perfect environment for them to build for another attack unnoticed. Another one will happen sometime in the future. People are walking around thinking that it will not, but you have the book in your hands. I am on record in print telling you it will. Please do not act surprised when it does. As I sit here now in the year 2001, I'm telling you, this is just the beginning. You've been given prior notice. September 11th, 2001 was just the beginning. Perhaps by the time this book has went into print, another such horror has happened. I pray every night that I'm wrong. But if I am right, I will not be surprised. How many more people have to die in the name of Allah right here in America before our own people take off their blindfolds and see Islam in its true light? Does a weapon of mass destruction have to go off in a major city and kill a couple of million people before we move? What has to happen? Shanley's robbery illustration shows how vulnerable America really is. Let me illustrate for you. Suppose you're a robber. No, I'm not condoning criminal activity. This is merely a crude illustration of a point I'm seeking to make. Stay with me. You're dirt poor. You're starving. You see a rich person coming around the corner. You can tell they have money by how they're dressed. It's nighttime in a bad neighborhood, yet this person is dumb enough to be walking alone. It seems like a perfectly vulnerable victim. As you approach, you realize that there's someone you know. This person knows martial arts. This person could mess you up pretty badly. But you need the money desperately, so you're going to throw it all on the line and go for it. They've always known you as a criminal. So if you came looking the way you would normally look, they would recognize you. You decide to disguise yourself in a Mickey Mouse mask. You approach your intended victim and you hit him, even though you're using your trademark style of combat that the whole neighborhood knows belongs to you alone. This person is fooled by the Mickey Mouse mask that you're wearing and doesn't even know it's really you. This person, who has a deep arsenal of martial arts moves at his disposal, could rip you to shreds if he felt like it, hears your voice as you demand his money in the depths of his own heart, in his own conscience, in his own intellect. He knows it's actually you behind the mask, but for reasons that are his own. He doesn't want to hurt your feelings or something. He chooses not to believe that it's actually you that's robbing him. He believes that Mickey Mouse is standing in front of him, and that both the punch and the voice demanding the money must have come from some other person, some unseen source. He shuffles to think of a way to identify and respond to the unseen robber. In doing so, he leaves himself open to you. You take full advantage and hit him again. He still refuses to recognize that there's a deeper and uglier source of this assault, and it's you. He chooses not to see you because you're wearing a Mickey Mouse mask. In his mind, the person behind the Mickey Mouse mask cannot possibly be robbing him. It's Mickey Mouse, for crying out loud. someone he's always known to be peaceful and good. That's what he's always believed. That's what he's always been taught. This person could not possibly be robbing him, could not possibly be trying to do him harm. The robber's really got to be somebody else. He figures he just has to find out who it really is. Instead of ripping the mask off of you and then answering your attack with his vast and his superior martial arts ability, he looks at a total other direction for the source of the punches that you're the throwing at him. It's the dream victim. As a robber, you couldn't have asked for a better all-day sucker. What will eventually happen? This person, though he's dozens of times stronger than you could ever hope to be on your best day, will eventually fall because he chooses not to see who's attacking him, nor is he in a position to answer the attack due to his self-imposed blindness. After he falls, you'll be free to take from him whatever you feel like taking without fear of his dangerous martial arts skills that he's chosen not to use in defense of himself. The only way for him to save himself from getting completely taken out is to choose to actually recognize who's attacking him and then respond to that attacker with his superior fighting ability. But since he cannot or will not see who is attacking him, as strong as he is, in the end, when the smoke clears, he's actually at your mercy. Now apply that to today. The rich person walking the streets is the United States of America. The robber is Orthodox Islam. It is behind the Mickey Mouse mask of the tolerance movement. When Orthodox Islam hits us from behind the Mickey Mouse mask, we refuse to believe that it was actually Islam. We fail to see the source of the attack. We're looking elsewhere for the real perpetrator. Orthodox Islam stands hidden behind the mask, happy not to be noticed. We are the dream victim. They couldn't ask for a better one. We are too blind to properly respond to the right attacker. Either we will never respond, we'll respond after it's too late to really do anything, or we can respond now. I'm calling upon you to choose option 3 and respond now. Even if you refuse to see an attacker as your enemy, this doesn't mean that he still doesn't see you as his enemy. It's not my intent to seem like a jerk or to come off as mean. I understand the need to be loving to all kinds of people that make up the human race, and I definitely support the freedom of religion that we're currently enjoying here in America, and I say that we are currently enjoying because there may come a day in which this is no longer the case. But at the same time, I don't feel that we have to close our eyes and turn off our brains in order to achieve having these things. Bad religions really do exist. Think about it. The ancient pagan religion of witchcraft, which is still around today, and they call it Wicca, and they call it parapsychology, things of that nature, that requires the murder of newborn infants only after the kidnapping of them from their parents beforehand. That's actually evil. The Hindu gods that require sacrifices and offers of human life, those are wicked. Whatever religion Adolf Hitler was following that provided him the theological and philosophical motivation for his hatred and slaughter of 6 million Jewish men, women, and children, I would suggest that this worldview is a vile and disgusting worldview. So you can see that contrary to the modern movement of allowing room at the table for every religion, there clearly do exist those religious worldviews for which there should be no room in a civilized society. And when we look at Islam honestly, in light of its command to go out in the name of its God and slaughter all those who refuse to bow down before him, I would suggest that we're being confronted with a very evil religion. It is comparable to witchcraft, comparable to Hitler's anti-Jewish worldview, and the religion of the bloodthirsty gods of the Hindus, the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Incas, etc., that required the ripping out of hearts. Yes, something that horrifying is in our midst right now. The question becomes, what are we going to do about it? Crucify, mutilate, or banish those who resist Islam. Surah 5, Ayat 33, quote, "This is the recompense of those who fight against Allah and against his prophet, and hasten about the earth to do corruption there. They shall be slaughtered or crucified, or their hands and feet shall be alternately struck off, or they shall be banished from the land. This is a degradation for them in this world, and in the world to come awaits them a mighty chastisement." Close quote. So for the unbelievers or non-Muslims, rejectors of Islam, There's a 1-2 punch coming at us. First of all, in this life, the Muslims that are in power are supposed to do violence to us and kick us out of whatever country that we're living in that they would like to occupy. But then in the afterlife awaits an eternal hell. Number one, yet another card in this stacked deck against Islam, which demonstrates from its own sacred writings that it is a religion of violence and terrorism. The Allah, moon deity of Islam, commands Muslims to commit acts of violence against non-Muslims. Were the attackers that went out on September 11, 2001 misunderstanding fanatics who didn't know their own scriptures? Or were they people who rightly understood exactly what the heck the Quran asked them to do, and were they careful about carrying it out? Number two, an observation about this, I'd like to point out interestingly how much Islam is like Christianity in a certain area. It teaches that there is a hell. You hate Christianity for teaching that there's a hell, yet you celebrate Islam who teaches that there's a hell. Quite the double standard there. Christianity and Islam. Why hate one and celebrate another? Either celebrate both or hate both. Society needs to make up its mind. Why did I just bring up the teaching of hell in the previous section? What does it have to do with the overall message of the book? Well, I'll tell you. It's all about consistency, the pluralist, tolerant, diversity-loving, multiculturalist society that America has created for herself has major consistency problems philosophically. And those problems always result in Christianity being the verbal punching bag of many anti-Christian bigoted people. The people forcing the whole political correctness craze onto everybody else, if they're reading this book, probably think I'm more and more bigoted and more politically incorrect with each Quranic verse that I dare to cite, that I dare to make public, as though I wrote the Quran or something, which I didn't. These are the silliest people of all. You see, their whole anti-Christian campaign in the educational institutions, the workplace, and the media is fueled by their own personal feelings. They're going to take their own personal opinions and make them the established way of thinking throughout our nation. They hate Christianity, and they want to teach their hatred of Christianity to the rest of the country. Their biggest objection to Christianity is the doctrine of eternal torment that is found in the Bible. They criticize, hate, and commit bigotry against Christianity because of their strong emotional rejections of the idea of hell. How silly is it to commit bigotry in order to spread a message that teaches non-bigotry? This is what the whole diversity movement is doing. In their definition of diversity, there's room for all religions and worldviews at society's table except one: biblical Christianity. Another reason hell probably upsets them is because they think about how unpleasant of an eternity that they have to look forward to if they continue on and then die while still in the state of rejection of the truth of Christianity. This alone could be a major cause of the rebellion and antagonism against us. People like this spend every minute of every day trying to suppress the truth from coming to their minds and attempt to block out any thoughts of hell. Whenever it is mentioned in their presence, it triggers images of torment in their minds, and they have to begin the process of suppression and blocking it out all over again. This angers them, and they immediately take it out on the person who brought it up, which is a Christian, and the belief system that teaches it, which is Christianity. Hell does not exactly tickle the human ear. I readily admit it. If I'd written the Bible, I would not have included it. But, like it or not, it's there. And since Christian theology and practice is based upon the Bible, Christianity teaches it. There's also another reason why Christianity is on the receiving end of such harsh treatment by the anti-Christian bigot. People hate Christianity because of its exclusivist nature. When a religion is an exclusivist religion, it teaches that only its followers will go to heaven and nobody else will. This is an anti-establishment view because universalism and ecumenism right now are trendy in our culture. Our public school system is training up a whole generation of universalists and ecumenicists as we speak. They're being taught to think and talk like this: if the God of Christianity is really a loving God, he would never send anybody to hell. The fact that the Christian talks about heaven as though it's some exclusive supper club or a members-only establishment is upsetting to me. How intolerant. Why only let Christians in but nobody else? Why not allow everyone else in too? Do you mean to tell me that an essentially good being would damn someone to hell just because they don't believe a certain way? Why make people suffer and go to hell simply because they're not a Christian? This is religious discrimination. Since he discriminates, the Christian God is actually a bigot, and I refuse to believe in and worship a great bigot in the sky. That's how these people think. That's who we're dealing with. Dealing with people who've been programmed with this mentality can be both humorous and irritating at the exact same time. Sometimes when talking to one, I seriously wonder if they've ever thought an independent thought in their whole life, or if they've just swallowed everything that's ever been fed to them by our culture without ever critically examining it. Based on the fact that the unbeliever's eternity, as described in the Bible, doesn't fit into the box that is the person's brain, this person will reject and even talk trash about Christianity. This person wants reality in the afterlife to conform to their preconceived ideas of what they imagine the afterlife should be like. Absolutely amazing. I have no problem with the average person in our culture voicing their opinions. I have no problem with them believing whatever they want to believe, even if I disagree with it. This freedom is what makes our nation great. The problem I have, though, with people of that mindset is this. If they hate Christianity because of its hell, then why are they on TV defending Islam and its hell? Why are they so inconsistent? In addition to the existence of hell, Islam also teaches exclusivism when it teaches that all non-Muslims are going to hell. The residents of hell, according to the Quran and the Hadith, will even include the news media people and the government employees who are defending Islam. You're defending a religion that teaches you you're going to hell. How does that make you feel? This is according to its own quote-unquote scriptures, which I've just quoted for you earlier, and which I'm going to keep on quoting for you. Reread it again if you don't believe me. The tolerance and diversity promoters need to wake up. They need to fine-tune the problems in their program that they're forcing onto everyone all over our country. It is doing more damage than good intellectually. It is a logically and philosophically flawed system of thought, as well as an empty approach to life. The point of this section of the book is that Islam teaches to kill unbelievers or non-Muslims and send them to hell. For any of you out there who are diving to the aid of Islam in an attempt to save its image in the public eye, you need to understand that in doing so, you are defending an exclusivist religion. You need to understand that you are defending their teaching of hell. Those are two teachings for which you hate Christianity. How can you honestly rally around Islam, which teaches similar things? When you defend Islam so passionately, which teaches the things that are reasons for your hatred of Christianity, you're making a very big mistake. In the depths of your own conscience and in your own intellect, even you know that I'm right about this issue. Anyone who's trying to pass Islam off as peaceful is really embarrassing themselves in a very public way in the eyes of anybody who knows the Quranic verses that I'm citing, anyone who knows what they're talking about. As a whole, we here in America have got to wake up. We've got to re-examine our views of Islam in light of the actual facts. We cannot let what is trendy and popular in American thought for a short time blind our eyes to the big picture. If you're going to hate one religion for its belief in the doctrine of hell, then be consistent and hate all religions who believe in a doctrine of hell, even the one that the TV is telling you is good. If you're going to give one religion a hard time because it's an exclusivist religion which teaches that only its members will go to heaven, this is fine. Go ahead and give them a hard time. Just be sure and carry out your bigotry to its logical end and give all exclusivist religions an equal hard time. But they will not. They will pick and choose which religion to mess with, Christianity, and which one to celebrate, Islam. This is the greatest deficiency of the modern diversity movement's whole agenda. The people putting it out there have no problem bypassing one religion that teaches things they don't like in order to lift up, put onto a pedestal, and even celebrate another religion who also teaches the same things that they don't like. In my view, I would suggest that people of this mentality are guilty of their very prejudice and discrimination that their whole movement claims to be opposed to. Such a contradictory philosophy is full of holes and hypocritical, to say the least. It's also unlivable. In order to make it consistent, they'd have to equally hate Islam with as much irrational anger as they hate Christianity. But they're too busy teaching cultural awareness curriculums that are teaching people to love Islam, to celebrate Islam, to sympathize with Islam. The minute one comes to the defense of Islam in the name of diversity and cultural awareness and every other thing that they think is good, they've just contradicted all that their movement claims to stand for. It is a contradiction because they would never come to Christianity's defense like that and due to what it teaches, even though Islam teaches the same two things which they hate. They're actually showing favoritism and religious bias, which their whole movement claims to be against. So next time you meet a hyper-liberal who's defending Islam with more passion than he'd defend his own mother with, remind him that Islam teaches that only Muslims go to heaven, exclusivism, and that all non-Muslims go to hell, the doctrine of eternal torment. Then ask him to either hate Islam just as fiercely as he hates Christianity, or else ask him to renounce his hatred of Christianity altogether. When he refuses to do either the one or the other, then you'll be able to see that he's not interested in being unbiased, he's not interested in facts, evidence, or truth. Instead, he's anti-Christian to the core.